What's poppin', YouTube? Happy Saturday. We are back again talking about rebuilding buys that you should be having in Dynasty. Without further ado, let's get into it. So we're going to be jumping into these rebuilding buys. And a lot of us in the Dynasty community, especially if you're doing startups, we like to do that where you're trading back, you're getting those young assets, and you might not be contending right out of the gate. But we're going to be talking about some buys that you should be pursuing. My first buy is going to be Kyle Pitts. Now, I know Kyle Pitts, the overvalued tight end from last year that didn't produce, the young stud that hasn't produced yet. Is he David Njoku? Is he going to be Evan Ingram where he bounces back? Is he going to turn into the next Travis Kelce? Still to be determined. But I think there's a lot of things that we are excited about with Kyle Pitts. Now, if we look at Player Profiler to kind of explain the story of what has happened with Kyle Pitts. So last year, he only played 10 games. Of course, he tore that ACL. We're a little bit worried about that. We're also worried about the volume that he only had 59 targets in 10 games, which is about 5.9 targets per game, which is not what you want to see out of a tight end like Kyle Pitts. Because in his rookie year, 17 games played, 110 targets, 1,000 receiving yards, 1,100 air yards. There was a lot of hype. The air yards were there, and he was tight end 11 on a points per game basis. This is something that is super exciting about Kyle Pitts. But of course, last year, Marcus Mariota starts. The Atlanta Falcons were a really run-heavy team. And then, of course, Kyle Pitts tears his ACL. It felt like if you were watching the Falcons that Arthur Smith was not putting Kyle Pitts in the position to succeed on a game-by-game basis. And that is something that we were not feeling great about. Now, why do I think Kyle Pitts is a buy heading into 2023? The first thing is Kyle Pitts has gone from a second-round startup pick, a mid to end, back-end second-round startup pick, to a back-end third, early. I've even seen him go early fourth in startups. That is super exciting if you're trying to buy Kyle Pitts. Because the thing is, the man is still young. 22 years old, will be turning 23 this year. And based on the tight end production, we can project him out until the age of 32, 33. Whereas, like we said, with these running backs, a little bit harder to value them past the age of 26. Wide receivers, the cliff seems to be 30, 31, whereas tight ends seemingly produce at a longer time frame and are in their prime a little bit longer. Now, you're going to have to pay up for Kyle Pitts if you're a rebuilder. But that is a shot that I'm willing to take on based on those peripherals, based on the fact that he was a top 5 rookie tight end ever. Those are the type of, and the athletic traits are exactly there with a 4.49 40, a huge burst score, just a huge big guy. Kyle Pitts is a must buy for us in Dynasty fantasy football drafts. My number 2 buy is going to be Treylon Burks. Treylon Burks is exciting, and I know a lot of people had him as their wide receiver 1 coming into the class last year. Gets drafted by the Tennessee Titans after they trade A.J. Brown away to then draft Treylon Burks. And everyone's like, cool, they got the A.J. Brown replacement. And that was not exactly how it ended up taking place for Treylon Burks. 11 games played, only 54 targets, 33 receptions, 8.6 fantasy points per game. Not exactly the kind of production we were looking for from Treylon Burks. Now, he did get injured. The quarterback play was really terrible. Tannehill got injured, and then Joshua Dobbs is in there right when Malik Willis was also in there for a little bit. And that was right when Treylon Burks started to really emerge. Now, Treylon Burks had some really great catches, had some of those highlight plays where we're like, that is the kind of after catch ability that we saw him produce in college that we were expecting to kind of translate into the NFL, which it didn't. Now, a lot of people compare Treylon Burks to the next Debo, someone that like that. They didn't really give him touches behind the line of scrimmage, didn't give him the ball often enough, of course, with only 54 targets. That is not enough. That's about 4 targets per game, 4.5 targets per game. Now, why am I thinking this is a great buy for Treylon Burks if you're a rebuilder? That's because he hasn't produced yet. He didn't produce like a Drake London, even though Drake London didn't have the best year last year, still had the targets, or a Chris Olave or a Garrett Wilson. Treylon Burks, in my opinion, is not that far behind. He is about a quarterback away from producing great results, which could be Ryan Tannehill. If you didn't check out my video from yesterday, I think Ryan Tannehill is a buy. Or if they decide to draft someone like a Will Levis in the draft and trade up, I think Treylon Burks for the next 2 years is going to have really great production in the fact that he's going to get the targets. Now, what are those quality targets? I do not know. But I think Treylon Burks is cheap enough right now. He's right behind George Pickens on keep trade cut. And I would very much prefer Treylon Burks over George Pickens in that type of scenario. I would be looking to buy Treylon Burks. If you had to trade a later round, first round pick to get Treylon Burks, I'd be willing to do that somewhere around the 108 to 110. If maybe you throw 2 or 3 seconds to kind of go get Treylon Burks, something along that nature would make me intrigued to go buy Treylon Burks. My third buy is going to be a little bit different. We're going to be saying Greg Dulcich. Now, Greg Dulcich, his peripherals look great coming out of UCLA, getting drafted to the Denver Broncos. Wasn't a super high draft pick, and he produced great, but it wasn't to the level of like a Kyle Pitts. It wasn't there. But we're always kind of looking to hit that next tight end because the tight end landscape is so desperate for success and desperate for a player that we're really excited about Greg Dulcich. Now, if you look, 55 targets in 10 games, 5.5 targets per game, 33 receptions, 8.6 fantasy points per game, which put him as the tight end 17. Now, we all saw the Denver Broncos offense. We saw how terrible it was, that Jared Jeudy wasn't getting the ball, Cortland Sutton wasn't getting the ball, and Russell Wilson was not cooking at all. Them firing Nathaniel Hackett, I think it makes room with bringing in Sean Payton. Sean Payton has had successful tight ends. We do remember Jimmy Graham from a while ago, but had super success under Sean Payton. No reason to think that Greg Dulcich won't be able to take some of that volume as potentially they trade Jerry Jeudy or Cortland Sutton. I know both have kind of been rumored to be in trades. Even if they're not traded, the running game with Javonte Williams coming back off injury and P. Ryan, they're going to be throwing the ball a lot. And who's going to take advantage of that? Greg Dulcich, who already has built that connection with Russ. Right now, Greg Dulcich on Keep Trade Cut is like tight end 13, tight end 14. I would be trying to acquire him cheap. Now, if you're playing tight end premium leagues, I think Greg Dulcich has that potential to be a George Kittle, someone that really thrives after the catch. I'm trying to, like I said, trying to trade everything I can to get him, not everything I can, but trying to trade things that would be valuable. Like I would be looking to trade a 2-6, 2-7 second round pick for Greg Dulcich in a tight end premium league. And if you're not playing in tight end premium, maybe a late round second pick. I know he did perform, so there's a lot of people that are high on him. But with this tight end class coming in, there might be some people that prefer one of these rookie tight ends over Greg Dulcich. The only rookie tight ends that I would really consider over Greg Dulcich at this point is going to be like Michael Mayer. Other than that, I'm probably interested in Greg Dulcich just based on the fact that he has produced on the NFL level. So if you're in your rebuilding and you're trying to find a low-end tight end that's not Kyle Pitts, Greg Dulcich could be the answer for you. My final buy low player for rebuilding teams is going to be Skyy Moore. Skyy Moore, where the heck has he been? What exactly happened? I know he had the touchdown in the Super Bowl game, and all of us Skyy Moore truthers united and said, Skyy Moore's back, baby. Skyy Moore's back. What happened this offseason? Juju Smith-Schuster leaves in free agency. McCole Hardman leaves in free agency. Now, those guys were taking up a lot of snaps, not necessarily the best targets, but Skyy Moore was struggling to get on the field. Now, Skyy Moore face planted as a rookie wide receiver. That is something we do not like to see. But Skyy Moore currently is in the 130 range on Keep Trade Cut. And this is a great buy opportunity because sometimes it does take Kansas City Chiefs receivers. It took Tyreek Hill until his second year to finally break out. And now I'm not saying Skyy Moore is Tyreek Hill. Morally feel like Kadarius Toney will be taking that role. But I do think Skyy Moore can earn the targets that we are looking for that can then put him in fantasy point production because his quarterback is Patrick Mahomes. 33 targets on 16 games, 22 receptions, 250 yards. Not great. 2.7 fantasy points per game. Let's not forget he ran a 4.40 and he had a really high speed score. 96.8. Now if we look at some of the metrics that Player Profiler has pulled up, let me get rid of this graphic so you guys can all see it. We can kind of see that there's just not a lot of great metrics that we can go off. His efficiency was low, his yards per out run, his target separation. And, you even look at how you were valuing him, like his total route wins 64. He was 126. So he really wasn't winning out of the catch. He only won 44% of the time. So why am I thinking that Skyy Moore is going to be a great value here in rebuilding teams? Just because of the fact that even if they draft a wide receiver, let's say the Chiefs draft a wide receiver, Skyy Moore is coming into this year as the wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3 at worst, and you're having to pay a late second for a player that was getting drafted at the 107, 108. Now, if you're trying to cut costs, I could totally understand that. But if we're a rebuilding team, we're trying to get as much young talent that has the swing and the upside to be elite level stars. And when you're looking in the 130 to 150 range, Skyy Moore seems to be that type of player that I'm looking for on Keep Trade Cut that could potentially boost up into the top 70 overall ADP and what the community is valuing. So Skyy Moore just seems like a great buy. Now, if you've stayed through this video, I appreciate you so much. Hit that like, hit that subscribe button. Helps me out a ton. And we'll be back tomorrow with another video. Catch you soon.